What happens when two of America's most beloved coaches go head-to-head in a battle that nobody saw coming? When the cameras are rolling, the studio audience is watching, and suddenly the friendly banter takes a turn that leaves everyone speechless. Well, buckle up because what unfolded between Blake Shelton and Kelly Clarkson on live television is about to blow your mind. Before we get into this absolute chaos, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on because trust me, you're going to need to pick a side after hearing this. Now, let's get into what really went down. The stage was set for what should have been just another typical interview segment. Blake Shelton, the country music superstar and longtime coach, was sitting across from Kelly Clarkson in the familiar setup that fans had seen countless times before. The lights were bright, the audience was energized, and everything seemed perfectly normal. Kelly started off the conversation with her signature warmth. That genuine smile she's known for lighting up her face as she leaned forward in her chair. "Blake, it's so good to have you here today," Kelly began, her voice carrying that friendly tone that had become her trademark. "We've worked together for so long now, and I feel like we know each other pretty well. But I have to ask you something that's been on everyone's mind lately." Blake shifted in his seat, that familiar smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Oh boy, here we go," he drawled, his Oklahoma accent thick as ever. "Kelly, you know I'm an open book. Fire away." Kelly's expression changed slightly, becoming more serious, more focused. "There's been a lot of talk about your coaching style, Blake. Some people are saying that you've become, well, a little too comfortable, that maybe you're not bringing the same energy you used to bring to the show. What do you say to that?" The audience went quiet. You could feel the tension building already. That subtle shift in the atmosphere that happens when a conversation is about to go somewhere unexpected. Blake's smile faltered for just a moment, his eyes narrowing as he processed what Kelly had just said. "Too comfortable?" Blake repeated, his voice taking on an edge that hadn't been there seconds before. "Kelly, that's rich coming from someone who literally just joined the show and acts like she invented the whole concept of coaching." Kelly's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me, Blake. I'm not attacking you. I'm asking you a legitimate question that viewers want to know about. This isn't personal." "It sure sounds personal." Blake shot back, leaning forward now, his body language completely changed from the relaxed posture he'd had moments ago. "You sit there with your perfect little setup, your team of writers probably feeding you questions designed to make me look bad, and you want to talk about my energy. Let's talk about authenticity, Kelly. Let's talk about who's actually being real on this show." The studio audience was dead silent now. Camera operators were glancing at each other, unsure if they should keep rolling or if someone was going to call a cut. But Kelly didn't back down. Instead, she sat up straighter, her own expression hardening. "Authenticity," Kelly said, her voice sharp now. "Blake, I have been nothing but authentic since day one. And you know what? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're so used to everyone just going along with your good old boy routine that when someone actually challenges you, you don't know how to handle it." Blake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My good old boy routine? Is that what you think this is? Kelly, I've been doing this longer than you. I've won more times than you. I've turned unknown artists into household names while you were still figuring out how the chairs worked." "Oh, here we go with the resume." Kelly fired back immediately. "Blake, winning a reality show competition doesn't make you the ultimate authority on music or coaching. It makes you good at playing the game. And maybe, just maybe, the game has changed and you haven't changed with it." Blake's face was flushed now, his jaw tight. "The game hasn't changed, Kelly. What's changed is that producers started bringing in people who are more concerned with their screen time than actually helping artists grow. You want to talk about playing a game? Look in the mirror." Kelly stood up from her chair, something that clearly wasn't planned based on how the audience gasped. "You know what, Blake? I came on the show because I genuinely love music and I love helping people find their voice. And I'm sorry if my success threatens you, but I'm not going to sit here and let you diminish what I bring to that show just because you're insecure about your own relevance." Insecure. Blake was on his feet now, too, both of them standing across from each other like two fighters in a ring. "You think I'm insecure, Kelly? I don't need to prove anything to anyone, least of all to you. What I'm tired of is watching you turn everything into a Kelly show. It's not about you. It's supposed to be about the artists. That is unbelievable coming from you. Kelly's voice was rising now, her southern accent becoming more pronounced with her anger. Every single season, you make it about your rivalry with Adam or your country music superiority complex or whatever narrative you're pushing that week. Don't you dare stand there and tell me I make it about myself when you've built an entire brand on being the funny guy who throws shade at everyone else. Blake pointed his finger at her, a gesture that felt aggressive even through the television screen. That's called having personality, Kelly. That's called being entertaining. But you wouldn't know anything about that because you're too busy trying to be everyone's best friend while secretly undermining everyone around you. Undermining? Kelly's voice cracked slightly, emotion bleeding through her anger. Now, is that what you call it when someone is better at their job than you expected them to be? Blake, the only person I've ever tried to undermine is myself by giving you the benefit of the doubt all these years. The host of the show, who had been standing off to the side, tried to step in. Okay, maybe we should take a breath here. And no, Blake cut him off, not even looking away from Kelly. We're not taking a breath. We're going to finish this conversation because clearly it's been a long time coming. Kelly, you want to know what my problem is? My problem is that you came onto a show that was working just fine. And you decided that you needed to fix it. You needed to be the hero, the one who does everything different. Everything better. But you know what? Different isn't always better. Kelly's hands were shaking now, balled lead into fists at her sides. You're so far off base right now that it would be funny if it wasn't so insulting. I never tried to fix anything, Blake. I tried to be myself. And apparently being myself is such a threat to you that you have to tear me down on live television. I'm not tearing you down, Blake said, his voice dangerously quiet now. I'm being honest for the first time instead of playing nice for the cameras. You want real? This is real. I think you're talented, Kelly. I've always thought that. But I also think you let success go to your head. And now you think you can just waltz in and rewrite the rules. The rules. Kelly shook her head in disbelief. Blake, there are no rules. That's the whole point. We're supposed to be mentors, guides, people who help these artists find their path. But you're so stuck in your ways. So convinced that your method is the only method that you can't see when someone is just trying to do things differently. Not wrong, just differently. Blake ran his hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration. You think I'm stuck in my ways, Kelly? I've evolved more than you could possibly understand. I've learned from every artist, every season, every mistake. What I haven't done is thrown away everything that works just to look innovative. And there it is, Kelly said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, but somehow more powerful than when she'd been yelling. You think innovation is throwing things away. I think innovation is building on what works and making it better. That's the difference between us, Blake. You're content. And I'm hungry. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or stay silent. The energy in the room was electric, charged with the kind of tension that makes for unforgettable television, but uncomfortable reality. Blake stared at Kelly for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression. You know what, Kelly? You're right, Blake said, and the entire room seemed to hold its breath. You are hungry, but being hungry doesn't mean you're eating the right things. You're consuming everything, taking up all the oxygen in the room, and you don't even realize you're doing it. Kelly's eyes widened, clearly not expecting him to agree with any part of what she'd said, even if it was wrapped in another criticism. That is such a twisted way to interpret what I just said. Blake, I'm not taking anything from anyone. There's enough room for all of us to succeed. Is there, though? Blake challenged, crossing his arms over his chest. Because from where I'm standing, every time you succeed, you make sure everyone knows about it. Every time one of your artists does well, we hear about your coaching method, your approach, your philosophy. It's never just about the artist anymore with you. Kelly's face flushed red. That is completely unfair, and you know it. Every single time I talk about my artists, I talk about their talent, their hard work, their dedication. If people want to know about my coaching style, I'm not going to apologize for sharing it. That's literally what we're there to do. No, Kelly, we're there to discover talent, Blake countered, his voice gaining momentum again. We're there to give people a platform who wouldn't otherwise have one. But somewhere along the way, you turned it into a masterclass on how to be Kelly Clarkson. And honestly, not everyone wants that. The host tried again to intervene. Gentlemen, ladies, I think maybe we should. Did you just hear yourself? Kelly interrupted, ignoring the host completely. Not everyone wants that, Blake. I have never, not once, tried to make anyone into me. I encourage artists to find their own voice, their own style, their own truth. You, on the other hand, have a very specific type that you go for every single time. And if someone doesn't fit that mold, you barely give them the time of day. Blake scoffed. That's absurd. I've coached artists from every genre, every background. Country artists? Kelly cut him off. Mostly country artists. And when you do branch out, you try to country them up because that's your comfort zone. You just accused me of making people into many versions of myself. But you literally do the exact same thing. You just don't call it that. Because it's not the same thing, Blake insisted, his voice rising again. When I work with country artists, it's because I know that world inside and out. I can give them insights they can't get anywhere else. That's called playing to your strengths, Kelly. Not forcing your worldview on everyone around you. Playing to your strengths or refusing to grow. Kelly shot back instantly. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you found a formula that worked and you're terrified to deviate from it, because then you might actually have to prove yourself all over again. Blake took a step closer to her and the audience collectively leaned forward in their seats. You want to talk about proving myself, Kelly? I've proven myself over and over and over again. I don't need to reinvent myself every season to stay relevant. I am who I am and people love me for that. People loved you for that, Kelly corrected. And the words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. But Blake, this industry moves fast. What worked 5 years ago doesn't work now. What worked last year might not work next year. And if you're not willing to evolve, you're going to get left behind. Blake's laugh was bitter, harsh. Left behind. By who, Kelly?
By you.
Is that what this is really about? You think you're the future and I'm the past? You think you're going to just push me out and take over? I don't think anything, Blake, Kelly said, her voice steady now, controlled. I'm not trying to push anyone out, but I'm also not going to dim my light just to make everyone jump. Then go start a revolution somewhere else, because right now you're on my stage, disrupting my show, and insulting everything I've worked for. Russell didn't flinch.
Good.
Maybe you needed to hear it. Get out, Fallon said, pointing toward the exit. Seriously, just get out. Russell raised his eyebrows. You're kicking me off? Yes, Fallon said firmly. I tried to be professional. I tried to apologize. I tried to make this work. But you clearly don't want to be here, so leave. Go. Russell stood there for a moment, studying Fallon's face. Then slowly, he smiled, not a warm smile, but something colder, almost satisfied. All right, Jimmy. You want me gone? I'm gone. He turned and walked toward the exit again. But this time, he didn't stop. The audience watched in stunned silence as Kurt Russell disappeared through the backstage door. Fallon stood there, breathing hard, his face flushed, staring at the empty space where his guest had been. The studio was dead quiet. Nobody knew what to do. The cameras kept rolling. Fallon stood frozen at his desk, the weight of what just happened settling over him like a thick fog. The audience was still silent, and you could cut the tension with a knife. He looked around at the crew, at the cameras, at the confused faces staring back at him. This was unprecedented. This wasn't supposed to happen. He cleared his throat, trying to find his voice. Well, that was something. His attempt at levity fell flat. Nobody laughed. Nobody even smiled. They just stared. One person in the audience started a slow clap, just one. It echoed through the studio, awkward and out of place. A few others joined in, uncertain, but it quickly died out. Fallon held up a hand.
No, don't.
Don't do that. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing behind his desk. I don't even know what to say right now. That was...
you all saw it.
Kurt Russell just walked off the show. He let out a shaky laugh. That's a first. Still, the audience didn't respond. The energy in the room was suffocating. Fallon looked over at his band leader, searching for some kind of support, some kind of signal for what to do next. He got nothing. Look, Fallon continued, his voice steadier now but still strained. I want to be clear about something. I brought Kurt on tonight because I respect him. I've always respected him. I asked him a question based on something he said in another interview, something that was already public. I wasn't trying to ambush him. I wasn't trying to create some viral moment. He paused, shaking his head. But apparently, that's how he took it. He sat back down, leaning forward on his desk. And you know what? Maybe he has a point. Maybe we do overthink things. Maybe we do prepare too much. But that's because we care. We want to give you guys the best show we can. We want our guests to feel comfortable, to have fun, to share their stories. That's all I've ever tried to do. The audience was warming up slightly. A few nods, some sympathetic looks. Fallon was finding his footing, trying to salvage what was left of the show. But here's the thing, he went on, his tone shifting slightly. You can't have a conversation with someone who doesn't want to have one. You can't meet someone halfway if they're not willing to move an inch.
I tried. I really did.
I apologized. I offered to start over, and he just kept pushing. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. So yeah, I told him to leave. And maybe that makes me the bad guy in some people's eyes. Maybe people will say I can't handle conflict or I'm too soft or whatever. But this is my show, and I'm not going to sit here and let someone tear it apart just because they're having a bad day. A few people in the audience clapped, then a few more. Soon, most of the audience was applauding, showing their support. Fallon nodded, accepting it, but you could tell he wasn't entirely satisfied. This wasn't how tonight was supposed to go, Fallon said almost to himself. We were supposed to talk about his new project. It actually looks really good. I was excited to talk about it. But instead, we got whatever that was. He picked up his cards, flipping through them absently. You know, when you host a show like this, you meet all kinds of people. Most of them are great. Some of them are challenging. And every once in a while, you meet someone who just wants to fight, who's looking for a reason to be upset. And tonight, I think that's what happened. The audience,